Hey, it's Rich, the Louisiana hobby guy. Say, have you heard of the Laserman by Flying Bear? Neither have I. I don't think it's a popular Google search term. Pretty new laser to the market, but they're pretty competitive with the way that they've built this machine. So they've sent me one. In fact, it's working right back there as I speak. And today we're going to get into the review of it. How well did it do? And I was quite surprised. I'm going to say that right off the bat at how well this did for a brand new company that, well, I had never heard of them before. I don't know if they've been around for a while. I haven't really researched the company themselves, but I've never seen one before, and there are very limited videos out there on this machine. So let's get started. Let's jump into Lightburn and look at the setup, and then we'll actually let's look at a few pictures first, and let me show you just a couple of the assembly things. But I'm not going to do an actual assembly video because this company, through their wisdom, developed a playlist on YouTube. It's about 15 videos. They run one after the other, takes you through the entire build step by step, and let me tell you, it's spot on. It's an excellent tutorial to put this thing together. So I'm not going to bore you with the build, but let's jump into a couple pictures. Let me show you a few things, what it looks like, what came in the box, and then we'll get into the setup in Lightburn. We'll look at some of the testing that I've done, some of the things, some of the pros, some of the cons. There are more pros than there are cons on this machine, I will say that. Very, very few cons that just about anybody can live with. So let's jump into the pictures real quick, and then we'll jump over into Lightburn and get started with the testing. Don't worry, this is going to be really quick. So, of course, this is what's in the box. Everybody knows you get a box. It's well packed, and wow, look at all this stuff here. Yeah, it's going to take a little while to get this one done, that's for sure. But you know what? The videos were really, really helpful, and I really had no problem putting this together whatsoever. It took the better part of an hour to get it all done, and this is the final product right here. And it is a little bigger than usual, but it's got a lot of features that you're not going to find in other lasers. Okay, so the assembly is all done. Quite a long assembly, something I don't particularly care for. It took me about an hour, so plan on spending a bunch of time doing this. It's really far from the back to the front, so the wasteboard is going to have to be 31 inches long, and I forgot what the measurement was on the X from the drag chain. Let me take a real quick look. I think it was 23. So 23 wide and 31 long is the wasteboard that I'm going to need to use for this. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in, and we'll give it its first run and see what happens. So we're going to do this together. Plug that in, and I think we just press this power button. Let's see what happens. Uh-oh, we got the alarm going off, and the alarm stopped. So let's take a quick look here. Move, I think, is where we're going to want to go. And let's try home. Oh, there it goes. All right, well, that worked. So while we're on the move screen, let's take a look, see what we got. Got Y. Let's go up. Let's set it to 10 millimeters. Up, up. Now, one thing I don't like about these screens is that you have to wait for it to move before you can press it again. So let's see if this one works the same way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nope, it doesn't. That's really nice. See, it's still moving. Nice. Okay. Hit home again. That all looks pretty good. Let's see what else we got here while I'm here. So 1 millimeter, 1.1 millimeters, 1 millimeter, or 10 millimeters. I should probably take this off. No, let me leave it on. So the back button is up here. Let's hit the back button, and we've got settings. So we have languages, voice. I know my lights are glaring in this camera. Roller mode. Let's take a look at that. Roller mode. So off and on. Oh, and steps per millimeter are in there. Okay, so that's good. Air filter, 50%. Let's put it up at 100. Go back. Voice. What is that? Oh, I see. Sounds. Okay. We'll go back. Limit switches. Oh, I guess you can turn them on or off here. Or trigger. Okay. I'm not sure what that means. I'll have to check into that. So let's go all the way back to home. And then we've got Wi-Fi set up. And you can see that it's already picked out a Wi-Fi already. It looks like it's on my printer Wi-Fi. I'll have to adjust that. Oh, there's the back button. Oh, let me see settings again. Nope. Let's see. So we got Wi-Fi, move, engraving, no SD card. Okay, if I put an SD card in here, we can do the engraving. So yeah, that's about it for the touch screen. So the first test is a pass. It started, and the touch screen is working. I did plug it into the network cable, and let's just start running some tests on it and see how it does. All right, so the first thing I'm going to try is the built-in software with the touch screen. I am not a fan of this. You all know that. In fact, I despise it. I despise these touch screens. But some people might like them, and they don't have lightburn. They don't, design actual works of art. But let's give it a shot anyway. Let's go to engraving. Let's go to the Laserman G-code. Let's go to auto mode. Let's get a home. Okay, let's frame it. Looks like it's in the right spot. So that all looks good. And this is my first time doing it, so I don't know what I'm doing here. We're going to go next step. One pass sounds good. Let's hit start and see what happens. Wow, there goes the fan. That is pretty loud. And there is an awful lot of air coming out of it. And I can see that it's just sucking all of the smoke out from this engraving. Let's see if I could tilt this forward just a little bit. Maybe give you a better view here. That's a really dark engraving that's coming out. Wow, I'm really shocked at how much air that little fan is moving, although it's a pretty big fan. Now, I do not have this one inside of my CO2 using the air extraction today because I wanted to test and see how well this air purifier does. And I'm going to say that I can smell the wood, the burning, but it's sort of like an air freshener smell. There's absolutely no smoke coming out whatsoever. And it actually smells nice, but my rule is that if you can smell it, it's bad for you. But I'm guessing that some people won't mind this at all. So I'll let this go ahead and finish, and I'll put this into hyperlapse mode, and then we'll come back and see what the final product from the touchscreen controller is. Alright, so it has finished now, and this is the finished product. It really destroyed this wood. The settings are way too high, but you can see that it did a really fine job on the engraving. So the settings are just too hot and too slow, but other than that, got a lot of depth to it. Did a good job. No smoke in the air, which let me show you real quick. There is a smell in here, but if I come up to the lights, you'll see there's absolutely no smoke in the air anywhere. So, yeah, I mean I'm not going to say that it's an air purifier. It is a smoke extractor, is what it is. So, this is the filter that it comes with right here. I guess it's about an inch or more thick. It does have on it a, where is that? There's a little gauge on here, right here, that tells you when it gets up to 100% clogged. I'm guessing. I think that's a gauge. I don't know. Maybe something like the things for the 3D printer where it just changes over time or humidity. I don't know how it works. But it doesn't look like a HEPA filter. It looks like a regular high density filter. And it did a good job of removing all of the smoke. So I will say that it is a smoke extractor. So the first engraving went good. The only thing I don't like about the touchpad is that everything happens from the 0, position. You don't have any control over it, and you have to format your files, or you can do your files, I guess, in Lightburn, transfer them to the SD card. If you're like working in the house, you can transfer them to the SD card, the G code, export the G code, and then plug it in here and run it here. But everything runs from the 0 position. I'm not a big fan of that. I like to run from the middle, but that's not a big deal. So we know that the touchpad works. All right, so this is the first connection to Lightburn, and you can see that the laser is connected and ready. If I look at the console, first thing I'm going to look at in the console is $110, $111, and I can see that this laser operates at 10,000 millimeters per minute. But what I wanted to show you was it is connected on COM 6. Let me bring up my device manager real quick, and in here, if I come to COM and LPT ports, you'll see that there is the CH340. Well, it says CH340, but that's not really what this is. This is the CH341. So if we look at the details, let's go to the driver. So if we come to the details, you can see that in my system, this is a CH341 SER. So that is the driver that I'm using, is the CH341 SER. It did not work with the CH340. It's not a big deal. You download the driver. I have the file, the actual executable, on my forum, where all you have to do is download it and double click it and then click install. Very simple, problem resolved there. Now it is communicating just fine, and it won't affect any of my other lasers. So all of these other diodes are still going to work. This is just the 2019 version as compared to, I think the other one was 2011, something like that. But anyway, it's all connected now, everything's working, and we're ready to run our first test. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here into the device settings, which is the wrench and the screwdriver icon up top here. And I just set this to 8,000 for the fast white space scan. I like to have it move fast on the white space. I could set it to 10,000 because the laser is capable of 10,000. And then I want to do my return to finish position over here. I don't like that it just stops at the end of the job. So what I'll do is we know that this is 400, so I'll do 200, which is the exact center, by 450. So I'll do 225 would be the middle. So we're going to do 200 by 225, and that'll drive the laser head up so that I can get to my work when the job is finished. So we're going to use this return to finish position and say OK. And if you ever wondered what the set finish position is over here on the move tab, that would set the finish position to 0, 0. You don't want to really do that. It's better to do it from up here so that you can define exactly where you want it to go. And with that done, everything looks good here. This is ready to go. So we're ready to do our first tests. Okay, so this is what we end up with. Better than most 5-watt lasers that I've tested. It did a really fine job. Let me see if I can get this to focus right. on the back side, you can see that at 40% power, it cut through. If I were to push this through, you can see that I can pull that right out. It's a nice clean cut. The cut is perfectly clean. This is at 200 millimeters per minute and 40% power. It cut through. So surprisingly, and it did a pretty fine job. Now you can see on this one right here, the spot size where the horizontal is deeper than the vertical. So you can see that spot size is a slight problem there. But all in all, it did really well on this cut test, and this is from my universal test card. All right, I'm just going to quickly go over the Wi-Fi setup on this. It's really, really very simple. I'm going to click on Wi-Fi, and I'm going to click on this network here, which is my laser shop. And I'm going to put in my password. And don't worry, this is just the password that I use for making videos. So I should really make a shorter password for the videos. And then I'll click this button here, and you'll see that it says connecting, please wait. And now it gives me the IP address, 10.0.0.18. So what I will do now is I will go in my browser and just log into the machine. All right, so what I've done here in Lightburn is I've created a special grid for this, being that I'm not attaching a wasteboard. And what I did was I sized this to the right size. 390 by 360 will fit on the board that I'm using on there temporarily. And I just put a couple of squares on here in a rectangle. So I've got my my 4" by 4" right here. I've got my 5 by 7 right here. I've got a couple other 4" by 4", and I've got my 12 by 12, which is actually 302 millimeters. So I've got everything that I need to work with in Lightburn and be able to position my graphics. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to burn this onto that wood. So if we take a look here, I'm just going to set this at 2080 in constant power mode. Just going to do one pass. I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to come up here and do File, Save G-Code. We're just going to call this Waste, and I'm going to hit Save. And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this in the browser. Right here, I'm going to click on Upload. I'm going to do Waste right here. Say OK, and you can see now that Waste is right here, and we can go ahead and get this framed and started. All right, so I'm going to hit the frame button right here, and I'm going to hit Send and Close. And if I bring my camera over, you can see that the project is now framing. I didn't find a control for the speed in here. I actually didn't look for it. I'm sure it's in the Gerbil settings where I could have made this frame faster. But anyway, I've got my pretend wasteboard on here, only because I'm not making a wasteboard, like I said. And this is just a temporary one, and it's going to work just fine for the demonstration in this video. So now we can see that this is framing. I'm going to cut to the end of this. We'll go ahead and just start that job. Okay, we're ready to start the job. I've got the air on, as you can hear, and I'm just going to go ahead over here and click Start. And I'll bring the camera back over here, and you can see that it is now running this job. I know it's a little hard to see on this camera, but that is a nice square that it did right there. And that's basically all I'm looking for, is a square where I can position my work. Doesn't have to be deep, doesn't have to be dark. Something quick and easy. And this is all I really need. So there's 3 of the squares now. And if, in case you're wondering, I did focus the laser. I made a couple of little cuts to the video, so just to try and save a little bit of time, but I wanted to show you the entire framing job here. So there is 4 of the squares. Now that's the 4x4s. Now it's doing the 5x7. You see it's running this job perfectly just like I designed it in lightburn. And that's the good thing about you know, cutting the wire if you want to go wireless with something like this. And now of course it's coming back and doing that 302 millimeter. And the reason why I size these like this is because these are the sizes of the wood that I'm going to be working with today. So this is just a temporary spoil board that we're setting up just to do some tests on this machine. I'm not going to be attaching one permanently. And there we go. The job is just about finished. A couple more seconds and we're all done, and now we've got our positioning squares. And oh, okay, so it's doing the it's doing the outside one as well. Okay, I thought I had turned that one off. I was just that should have been on a toolpath, but that's okay. That's not a big deal. We'll let it run the whole job, and now you can see that I can clearly see. It's much clearer in person than on the video. I can clearly see where all of these framing jobs are on this wasteboard. So I'll be able to position my work accurately in absolute coordinates, and this will work like a dream. And there we go. There's the whole job. So it's finished. Alright, so we're all done there. We're all finished up here. The job is complete. And what we're going to do now is we're going to jump in and do some testing, and I'm going to show you how I can design in lightburn on Wi-Fi, design in lightburn, position my work, and send it via the ESP32 program. Okay, we're going to do this really quickly. We're going to save a little time today. I'm going to take this and I'm going to select this one, and we'll bullseye the two. And oh, I've got the little writing down there. Let me get rid of that so it makes it a little bit easier. Of course, you always want to leave the person's signature on there. For this demonstration, I'm just going to take it off, and we will come back and put this back together again, group it like that. Now we can select the outer box and put it right directly in the middle. That still looks a little, oh, I've got a couple little anomalies over here. So really quickly, I will go ahead and clean this up, get rid of those, and we'll come back and put her back together again, group her again, and do this one last time. And you know, I do all of these live, so you get to see the errors and the way that I fix it. So that's a good thing. So there we go. We've got our girl there. We're going to put her into, nope, we're not going to put her into fill mode. Again, you get to see all the mistakes. We'll put her on another layer in fill mode, and we will run this job. And that looks good right about there, 5,580. So now what I'll do is I'm going to select all of this here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of that onto a toolpath, and then I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to lock it so that it can't be moved. So now no matter what I do, I can't select anything. I can select it, but I can't move it. So if I select this here, you'll see that it doesn't move. There's nothing I can do with it. It's locked permanently. This is the only graphic that I can move around. So this is ready to go. I'm just going to go drop a piece of wood on here, and we'll get this burn started. So this is the beauty of working in lightburn and absolute coordinates. You'll see that, well, all I did here was drop that piece of wood onto that square that I burned on the wasteboard. So this is the beauty of working in absolute coordinates, is that there's no framing involved. Once it's framed in the software, you just hit the start button and that's it. Okay, so here we go. Final results. Let me go ahead and say complete over here. Move the laser head to the home position. Get that out of the way. And now you can see where I've placed the wood. These are the results of the burn. I placed the wood directly on that 5x7 square. And I don't think you get too much better than what we see here. That looks pretty good to me. Let me pick this up, give you a better view. Real nice burn. Perfect lines, perfectly centered on the wood. And now you can see how I use this waste grid with this Laserman, the Flying Bear Laserman laser. And this is just temporary. And like I said before, I've got these little sticky things here. These are called nano stickers. So that's what's holding that wood in place. It's also holding the frame down to the wasteboard. And this is how you can work in absolute coordinates. And these are the kind of results you can get: perfect framing. So there you have it. That is some of the setup and the testing that I've done. And I have to say this laser is done really, really well. I'm going to get into one particular area of this laser that is super impressive. So now I've got the S9 here. This is the Legends of the Blues that was done on the S9. 6,000 millimeters per minute, 100% power, and cut it out afterwards. This is the same 6,000 millimeters per minute, 100% power on the Laserman. And what you probably can't see, I'm going to try and take a picture and put this up of the two, but the clarity on this one is just superb. In fact, I've compared it to my other lasers that I've done this same photo on, and I got to say that this is probably the sharpest photo that I've gotten, and it's not due to focus. I'm using the exact manufacturer focusing guidelines. So this one on the Laserman has just incredible detail. I can read every single name that's maybe a half a millimeter down there on the bottom. I don't know how well this is going to come out on the camera, but if I put these up side by side like this, and you can compare maybe the names there, you can clearly see the difference. And there's one person in here that stands out among the others. Let's see, for clarity, let me figure out which one this is now. Okay, so here it is. It's this gentleman right here, top right, second person over. And I want you to take a look at let me make sure that I've got that right. There we go. I want you to take a look at the difference. Now, this one on this side is the S9. This one in the front is the Laserman. And the difference is, it's night and day. It really is. The clarity on this, of all of the photographs, if you look at B.B. King's guitar, you can clearly see it on B.B. King's guitar as well, all the reeds. But all of the photos in here, all of these photographs that are in here are much, much, much clearer. So this just has an amazing clarity to it that I'm going to tell you that I've compared it to the LaserMaster 3. I've compared it to the Orfero Laser 2. I've compared it to the NAJ, the 3 Max NAJ with the A4640. I've compared it to the Comgrow, which is also another really, really nice looking engraving machine. And this one's just better than all of them. So that sort of puzzles me a little bit. But as far as engraving goes, and if you need to engrave really, really small things, I really haven't found a better machine to do it. And it really, really shocks me because this is such a brand new laser to the market. So I wanted to get that one done live. You know, you've seen the pictures of the videos of the other ones being done, the pictures and things like that. I'll put some more pictures up as I talk. Everything about the machine worked flawlessly except for the actual bed size of it. Now, the bed size they claim to be 400 by 450. Turned out to be the usable size that I could get was 399 by 444. Not a big deal. It's not a big deal, but you know, it's just off by a little bit. And now other people haven't had this problem, but yet other people may not have done a complete frame of the entire work area, so that may be the reason why they haven't had the problem. But I can tell you that on this machine it will alarm if you go 400 by 450 in both directions. In fact, I did a video on it last week. If you want to see that, you can see that video and see how to fix it. And I'm going to have another video coming out about the roller accessory, which I didn't get a chance to test in this one. But I did make these risers, these 3D printed risers. You can get this on my Thingiverse account, the Louisiana Hobby Guy. These are the legs that the machine came with. This is the riser to raise it for the roller accessory. What I did was, let me get this one out of here. I 3D printed new legs because most people are going to put this onto a wasteboard and they're going to screw it down. So I have the 3D printed legs. To give you an idea, this is the original right here. So these legs have the screw holes in them where you can screw it down to the wasteboard. And I also have them up on top here. So with this screwed onto the wasteboard, I have a cutout in the bottom, and this, you put it over it, push it down, it snaps right in place. Very tight fit. I did put some thumbtack holes over here on this, but you're not going to need them because first off, it sits perfect the way it is. You don't need anything at all. If you're not putting it on a wasteboard, you can just use this as the riser. So it works perfectly. But if you are putting it on a wasteboard, you can get both the new feet for it that I designed, as well as the riser itself to put it up for a roller accessory. And again, you can get that for free on Thingiverse. Look up the Louisiana Hobby Guy. I only have a couple files up there. Let's get into the pros and cons. So the pros, except for the frame, like I said, I'm not a fan of 2020 extrusion, but except for the frame, I would say that it has excellent accuracy and super fine detailed engraving. Now it's going to cut like any other machine. This Legends of the Blues that I did here is 4mm plywood. I ran this, I set it for 5 passes because it's a 5-watt laser, and I'm thinking that it was going to take 5 passes, but actually it was cut through on 2 passes. So it did this 4mm plywood in 2 passes. I don't use these machines are not cutting machines, so there's no sense in really spending much time on that. It cuts like any other 5-watt laser. In fact, it cuts better than some. So as far as engraving, better than most. So I will say that. Now, one of the things that really surprised me, because typically on the 5-watt laser, and this is a 5-watt test that I did, you're going to get like from 70 to 100%. Well, we got from 40 to 100% on this one. So this is the actual cut test. This is 2mm basswood, and running at 40% power, 200 millimeters a minute. This is what it cut right through this. So that kind of surprised me, because typically it's from about 40 or 50% up on the 5-watt lasers. So it did a pretty good job, or I should say from 60 or 70% up on the 5-watt lasers. This one did it at 40 and 50. Now, to be fair, the 40 I did push out. Didn't take much of a push though. It was cut all the way through. So you can see on the back side there. But it did a really, really nice job on this cut test. I also did the circle test. So the circle test was perfect. I cut a 50 millimeter square out of wood, out of plywood, and then I measured it with the caliper, and it was 49.97 in both directions. So I'm happy with that. I'm gonna call that 50 millimeters. If you wanted, you can go adjust the X and the Y in lightburn and fix that little, couple thousandth of an inch. But not a big deal. It was that close. So not a whole lot of adjustments had to be done to this. I do like the fact that you can work offline with the controller. So if you wanted to design some files in your living room, you could save them to the SD card, come back, plug that in, and just load the file from the touchscreen and run it from there. I don't like the fact that that it uses the NC files, but it does accept G code. So there you go. So what I do is I design in Lightburn. I can design in Lightburn. I can export the G code. I can even use my absolute coordinates designing in Lightburn, export that G code onto the flash drive, plug it in over there, run the job, and use my waste grid to position my work, and it will go right to where I wanted it to and run that job off for me. So you can work offline. The ESP32 chip that it has built in with the Wi-Fi works fantastic. So you can work over Wi-Fi if you don't want to have the wires. That's a big plus. And now most of the Wi-Fi claims that you see on lasers are not real Wi-Fi. Okay, they have Wi-Fi for their own app. This is completely different. This one you log into your router to your SSID. It is the 2.4 gigahertz network. So you log into that. It stays logged in permanently. There's no problems with it disconnecting or anything like that. Gets a good solid signal. The air assist, the air exhaust, I should say. The air exhaust goes on both the pros and the cons list, and I'll tell you why. Because it only works on these NC files that you load from the controller. Now, I don't know anybody that designs NC files. Everybody uses, SVGs or PNGs or JPEGs or bitmaps. I don't know anyone that uses NC files on a laser. So that is the only drawback, is that air extraction is sort of useless unless you can design and run an NC code file. And in that case, if you did, you'd be running it from the 00 mark every single time with every job that you've got. So not quite as versatile as anything else. But the company is telling me that they're going to fix that. So hopefully that they're going to fix that, and you're going to be able to use that air exhaust. Now, something I did in the meanwhile on this one behind me was I just unplugged it from that fan. And what I did is I put it in my other exhaust and put a piece of tape around it. And I can tell you that sucking that air out is working just as good as an air assist. In fact, I'm going to say even probably better. It works absolutely fine just plugging that into your current smoke extraction system. And I used the ComGrow smoke extractor, and all I did was put a piece of Gorilla Tape around it, and it worked fine. Yeah, it really, not a bit of smoke anywhere using that ComGrow. There was some smell, obviously, because it's going through that filter. Another thing about this air extraction is, until they get it working without having to use the touchpad, without having to use only those NC files, it's pretty much going to be worthless. So, that's something that you might want to consider. But having that attachment on the back of the laser module that you can hook up to air extraction, I think is a really big plus. Another really big plus about this machine is the wire management. They did a fantastic job on the wire management for this, using these firm cables, the drag chain on the left side with the holder for the drag chain. You won't have a single problem with wire management on this. Wires getting in the way, it's shifting your work. That was all done perfectly. So let's get into the cons. Now, I already talked about the 2020 extrusion. I'm not a fan of that. So again, working from the touchpad, 0, position is where all of your work is going to be. It's got to be an NC file, and that's not going to be something that you're going to want to do. But you can use a G-code file, design in Lightburn, and use the touchpad for the G-code file. Then you can position your work anywhere if you're working in absolute coordinates. Filters. So for that air extraction, it's got like a little 3" by 3" filter, and it's really pretty thick. And actually, when I did the NC file that came with the machine, it had less smell in the room than when I did it with the much bigger ComGrow one. So it is a better filter. But the price is ridiculous. They're like $35 for a replacement. But they do give you one extra filter with it, and I'm sure you can probably find that same size on Amazon. I'm sure it's used for some other machine a lot cheaper. It's got like a 3D printed cover on it too, which I guess doesn't matter. I 3D print a lot of things. But to change the filter, you got to take all the screws out. So that looks like a big process right there, changing that filter. They could have made that easier. The assembly process, longer than usual. This one took me, I guess, about an hour to put together. And I did do it the way that you would do it as a customer, a new customer. I went to their website, I loaded that playlist, and I hit play, and I just followed the directions, step by step. Went from beginning to end. Turned out perfect, except I used a couple screws in the wrong place that I had to go back and unscrew and replace them with the right screws. But other than that, the assembly process was super simple, easy to follow. Flying Bear, you did a great job on those instructional videos. That gets a big thumbs up, because a lot of companies don't put up an instructional video and people are just lost. So the last con that I've got about this is that some of the G-code commands don't work on it. Hopefully they'll get that straightened out. I haven't actually looked at it yet. It might be something in the machine settings that can be changed, but as an example, I can't set the finish position where it moves up and out of the way. I tried it, I set it, it didn't work. So that's one example. There are a couple other little things that didn't work as expected, but nothing that you would ever really notice. So that's about it. I would say that this is probably, this probably tops the list as far as budget lasers go. And it has a lot more features than any other budget laser that's on the market today. It fits the very top of the list in budget lasers. And the only reason why I say that, it sort of feels like an unfinished product. But I will say that, anyone can buy this product now, get to work with it, and it's going to produce. And some of the little things that I nitpick about, you'll probably never even notice. So if they get that fan working with Lightburn, with the M8 command, that would get a big thumbs up. So, so that Lightburn can turn on and off that fan. Not that I would use it. I don't know if I would use it or not, but me personally. But there are a lot of people that wouldn't mind having just like an air freshener smell in their room and not have to exhaust the laser to the outside. Now, I will say that you've got to be careful if you're working with anything other than maybe wood, slate, anodized aluminum. You're going to need to vent to the outside instead of through there. I would say be very careful. And I vent everything to the outside. The only reason I didn't on this was for the testing. So that's about it. I hope you liked today's video. I tried to give you as much real information as I could. My videos are no fluff. I give you the good and I give you the bad. And I'm going to tell you, like I said in the beginning, This one has more pros than cons. This is a laser that I would buy. And probably one of the biggest reasons is the way that it engraves. And it just engraves fantastic. And like I said, it really puzzles me. That is dependent on the laser module's frequency. So I don't know if you've ever noticed, but they say 455 plus or minus, right? So that plus or minus is very important. And, this laser might just be the right perfect frequency for getting that 5 to 100%. I can tell you that X tool is not. There's probably not an X tool on the market that gets you anywhere in the 5, 10, or even 15% range. And that's very important when you're doing photographs or grayscale images, is being able to get that 5, 10, and 15% range. So I think the X tool is slightly out of the range, where this one is slightly below it. And because this one, I've never really had a laser that's gotten fully 5% to 100% with a noticeable gradient all the way around before. So this one might be on just a slightly different frequency that is giving it those results. And frequency is important if you're doing photographs. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video as much as I enjoyed making it for you. And as always, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.